Good evening, everyone. How many of you remember the very first time you drove? Were you nervous? Did you have directions coming from you from the left, from the right, people telling you whether to use the gas, use the brake, turn left, turn right? I had a very chaotic experience the first time I drove. I had several people giving me directions. I had different opinions coming at me from all of these directions. I even had people reaching in and trying to hold the steering wheel for me. It ended in a not so great finale with me crashing into a stop sign. So why I bring this up is that similarly, when a woman begins to breastfeed her very first child, she hasn't had an experience with this before, it's a very new experience. And it can feel chaotic in the same way. It can feel chaotic, unsettling, brand new, and like your first time driving, there are instructions coming from all different directions, people trying to take over for you if things don't go quite the way you expected. So I'm here today to give 3 keys to getting breastfeeding off to a good start. These 3 keys will lend to your breastfeeding success, and most importantly, lend to a mother's confidence that she can breastfeed successfully. So today I'm going to give you these 3 keys, and these 3 keys are skin-to-skin contact, breastfeeding within the first hour after baby's born, and not using bottles and pacifiers for the first 2 to 3 weeks. So let's talk a little about the skin-to-skin contact. Now, oftentimes when people discuss skin-to-skin contact, they use a model. I don't have a terribly fancy baby model here. I have a donated model from my daughter, but I think she'll do for our purposes here today. So usually when the baby is born, they're going to check eyes, nose, mouth, skin color, make sure the baby's breathing okay and everything looks good. As long as there's no distress, they bring the baby right to you. And what you want to do is take that baby in only a diaper. Bring that baby up to your chest like this and tuck the baby inside your hospital gown, wrapping the baby in with you. You're going to bring the baby's body temperature up quickly. Your body is going to get the message that baby's here and needs to be fed, and the baby's brain is going to be doing a lot of work here. There are going to be a lot of neurological connections being made as the baby lays against mom. Now, we know this because the ladies at Lactation Education Consulting and Training taught me such. You'll see references at the end. And what they teach us is that bringing the baby up here is really the very beginning of a breastfeeding experience. The baby does what they need to do, your body does what it needs to do at this point, and your brain gets that message to start everything off. So, we'll set baby aside for a moment. The next thing that we're going to discuss is breastfeeding within the first hour. Now, if you bring baby up skin to skin, like we discussed, the baby will generally begin to move on its own, kind of searching, looking around a bit, until the baby gets in a position where they're comfortable, they find the breast, and they will latch on, that's the phrase that's used, they will latch on to the breast on their own, and generally in a very comfortable manner if you allow their head free movement. Now, why is it important that we do it in the first hour? If you do this within the first hour, your body gets a strong message, baby is here, open the milk factory. Okay? These neurological connections that we talked about, this sends messages to your brain sends out the hormones to produce the milk. And if you do that in the first hour, baby gets a very important milk called colostrum, and then it triggers the beginning of that process. So it's very important. Now, the third key, bottle and pacifier avoidance during the first 2 to 3 weeks. The reason that we do this, I'll set my model aside for a moment, Pretend this is a breast, use your imagination, okay? When you use a bottle or a pacifier, baby takes in about this much. When you use only the breast, when you allow baby to nurse on the breast, the baby will latch on much wider and take in quite a bit more of the breast than they would with just a bottle or pacifier. Now, why does this matter? This matters because a baby is brand new and they can only learn so much at one time. So whatever they become most comfortable with, whatever they're taught early on, they will try to do whatever's the easiest. And that tends to be just that little bit of bottle or pacifier. So if you give them both, what you find is that instead of the baby taking in a great deal of breast, they begin to slide down to the point that they're comfortable with because of using bottle and pacifier. And then what you end up with is a baby just on the tip of the nipple, which is not a proper latch for baby, and it will hurt mom, and there won't be good milk transfer. So, these are the 3 keys for getting off to a good start. There's a lot more involved with nursing a baby, just as with much more to driving than the brake and the gas and your turn signals, but it's a good starting point. Now, there are some exceptions to the things that we've discussed here. And, if a baby is born healthy, happy, temperature's good, color's good, this is where we'll begin. However, if you have a baby that's born with birth defects, if you have a baby that's born with some other sort of abnormality, there may be a different approach that you would need to take outside of these 3 keys. There are 3 times when you're definitely going to want to step aside from these keys and take advice from the professionals that you're seeing. The first case would be if your baby has a physical or mental impairment. You're going to want to seek out a lactation consultant and utilize that resource. They can guide you on how to successfully provide breast milk for your baby, even though they have these impairments. The second thing you're going to want to consider is whether or not you are on medication. If you are on a medication, you're going to want to consult your physician to make sure that this medication is safe for you and breastfeeding. Now, you're also going to want to consider the physician's advice in regard to your infant. You're going to want to listen to your infant's physician, and if there's any advice that is in opposition to the things we discuss here, certainly you would defer always to your physician. So, breastfeeding can be a really amazing experience. Just as when you learn to drive and you have everything down, you can take off down the road and let the wind run through your hair and enjoy the ride. Not always great in the beginning, but if you start off the right way, much better chance of success. So, I hope that this has helped mothers. And in addition to that, I want to have a special note to the fathers in this closing. You are imperative to a mother's confidence in taking care of her baby, to her comfort, to her being able to give everything she has to the baby. She's got you there for a support. Fathers can do skin to skin. It's wonderful for the baby's neurological development as well. Fathers can be right next to a mother while she's nursing, making that eye-to-eye contact. So I don't want you to ever think that your role is less in a breastfeeding experience. Now, I hope everyone feels confident and prepared. I hope that these 3 steps have helped you get a better understanding of how breastfeeding gets off to a good start, and thank you for your time.